He must be ready to talk about it. Mike from around the world. Are you there, Mike?
Pastor Paul, I'm here. How you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing great. Doing great. You're sounding great. Coming in loud and clear.
All right, good, good.
Mike, so you can see the title of this show. If it's true, if this is true, then what's next? And so I've been kind of ranting and raving here about several different issues, and we wanted to get your take on it. So and then again, you may have some issues tonight that the bombs you need to drop on us. Okay. So here we go. Let's start with this one. One of our callers, one of our online followers in Townsend, Montana, said tonight there was a very long train filled with white government rail cars up in Montana. And I remember what you said about this. Can you if this is true, Mike, then what's next?
Well, those the rail cars in Montana is somewhat of a hub, but those rail cars are designated for supplies for shipment all around the USA. Normally, when if they start running, people will see them in mass, but when they start running, get ready for a massive change in how people eat. Which is why back in the day I told people to decrease the taste in their food palette, make
Yeah.
foods a bit simpler in seasoning and everything, so it's not that big of a shock. If that is the case, and I don't doubt it one moment, but if that is the case, that just simply means they're preparing for some sort of emergency distribution.
So when you say it's going to change the way people eat, and I do remember you told us this 2.5 years ago when you first dropped this bomb on us, and you said you better get used to changing your taste palette. Um, you know that there's a reason that there has to be a reason that we got to change the way we eat. What is the reason? What's
And we have
next?
two. We
Okay.
have two. Those white trains are for emergency distribution, right? Which means some sort of emerging event we're about to undergo. With our relationships with China, with imports and things like that, during any type of not so good interactions, you have to halt food supplies coming in. You cannot use any of the supplies that are coming in. They have to be sunk on the spot. You can't use them. And we have a developing crisis between a few nations right now that's not very popular, but trust is becoming very difficult. Right? There have been poisonings on a large scale. There have been forced contamination. There's
What?
been quite a few things. Been quite a few things. So if when that goes into play, no store is going to be restocked. Inventory is going to have to be burnt, destroyed. They'll do that by lot number. And it will be a forceful action at that point. Everybody's going to have these prepared foods. The foods they'll get, by the way, were prepared probably about a year ago, before, well, 2 years ago, before this pandemic started. That was the last of the emergency stocking and some of the food for the USA. So that's where we are. If those start rolling out, uh, people are going to see them in every single town, coming up in every single town, distributing common supplies. People will not eat the way they were eating. And
And
I'll say
so
it again, during an emergency, when you have mistrust of the nations, the food supplies that have come in, they have to be destroyed. You cannot use them, right? You just can't do it. And given our relationship with China is so multifaceted, right?
yeah.
There are evolving threats. There's some things coming very quickly, right? Very quick, swift, and so we could literally see a transition of things in less than once it begins, it'll take less than 3 days to fully implement. This is
What?
full
Wait.
implementation.
Time. Okay. So in other words, there's enough food. There's enough food that we could fill railroad cars and put trains everywhere across America within 3 days.
If that happens, it'll only take 3 days to have it up and running. It has to be that quick because you have to intercept all food supplies, not some, all food supplies.
Is it because the food is poisoned? Is it because are you anticipating food? poisoning. We've seen the pet food poison that came out of China. We've seen some of the other food came out of China already, like they were testing it to see how far they can get it through. I mean,
Yeah, you'd be surprised if some of the methods that they have. They literally have devices, right? Pressure devices. They have electronic devices that can release a small bit of an aerosol, right? It'll penetrate through packages and everything else and contaminate anything within a contained area. So that's remote. That's remote contamination of food at any given time. And these devices are so tiny. Think of it this way: that your shirt, right? A button on your shirt. That's
yeah.
about the size. That's about the size of the device. The actual aerosol is contained in a ball, a sphere the size of a BB. And if that is released, right, it's enough to contaminate
What?
an entire, if a trailer was full of food,
Yeah.
it could contaminate. I'm talking about a big trailer, like a quadruple wide, maybe. It would contaminate everything in that trailer probably in less than 15
One
minutes.
little BB.
Yes.
So this is so whatever this is it like is it a bacteria? Is it
No, no, no. It's the well, as far as the contents, it's engineered, yes, right. But
yeah,
they have a
synthetic.
way of compacting aerosols that will interact with oxygen and nitrogen, right? When they do
Uh,
that, they essentially increase in mass, and that's the way that you can release tiny amount of something and really do a lot of damage. Right? There are chemical weapons like that, likewise, that can do the exact same thing. And again, you're looking at a cartridge the size of a BB. And once it's released, for example, if somebody were to have one of the more concentrated ones, if they were to release that in a base, it would react with all the oxygen and nitrogen around it, and it could potentially contaminate a base the size of Fort Hood, and that would be in less than a couple of hours, because you're talking about that's a somewhat of a chemical response with these chemicals, and oxygen and nitrogen. That's everywhere, so it's not going to run out of activators, so to speak.
so so the white train thing is real. I mean, if the white trains, we start seeing these trains on the everywhere, and they got white rail cars. They're filled with government food. It's going to be a different. We're not going to eat the same brand name stuff that we've been eating.
No,
We're gonna
no,
we're gonna
that,
be eating a more bland, a more just
that's
enough
right.
enough to survive.
That's right.
You better have a
They're,
salt
they're,
shaker.
they're they have chocolates and things in there, but it's not the chocolate that people are used to.
Okay, that's real encouraging, Mike. So all right, so I'll just keep that. I'll just keep that with me. Heidi, the chocolates they have, but it's not like you're used to. She's back there eating chocolate. But anyway, let me move on. Um, Elon Musk, 2 hours ago, the FDA just approved that Neuralink can now start implanting microchips into human brains. Now, Elon says it's for good reasons. He wants to try to help paralyzed people walk, and I have no doubt that there's very good intentions in this. But just like AI, once you let something out, once you allow something to be approved, can this go? Where does this lead? So my question is to you: now that we know this is true, Mike, what's next?
Oh boy, first of all, with AI, personally, I believe it's too late. It's just too late. It honestly is too late. The news does not match the facts, right?
Okay, all right.
And
Let's
so
hear
it's
this.
it's
Let's hear it.
for example, just to give everybody an idea about real AI, right? Right now, this technology exists and it's utilized, but you could lay down on your couch or pass somebody with a scanning device with a 6-second scan, right? They can publish or print out or in a moving picture format. They can actually show what everything you saw, everything you thought about. They can do this for everything for a pretty long duration of time. This is with artificial
Whoa,
intelligence.
whoa, whoa,
So,
whoa,
well,
whoa, 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 whoa,
essentially,
whoa, 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 wait. In 6 seconds, an
yeah,
A.
this is not it's not make believe. We're not talking about make believe. We're
No, but
not
you
talking
just
about
said
that.
you can scan me and then
Scan your. That's
and
right.
my brain, and all
That's
of a
right.
sudden you know everything that I've thought about.
That's right.
For how long? For like maybe 6
That's
months
right.
or something
There's
crazy?
a well, there's an indeterminate amount that's based on how powerful the AI would be that would actually assemble that
How are you going
data.
to read my brain? I mean, you're talking
You
memory,
can
Mike. You're talking memory.
your brain,
Yeah, my
your brain.
brain. But you
Well, with scanners, right? With scanners, you can
okay?
actually you can do an electro scan of particulates. Those particulates constitute an image. Now, a computer image for AI is much more complex than the images we see. It's going to contain all sorts of data points for chemicals, for all sorts of things, down to a micron scale, right? Because they already have the brain modeled, right? They already have an initial model. Actually, they have a subset of millions of brains models, right? AI knows exactly what to read, exactly what part of your brain is active, this, that, and the other. Now, once it has a snapshot of your brain, which it can acquire in about 6 seconds, it can then take that all that data, reassemble it, right, into useful information. Meaning, they can reassemble your thoughts, they can reassemble what you've seen, they can reassemble what you've heard. And here's something that messes people up when they do this, right? If they will have examples of this in several different places, but they'll scan a person's head, a person, you know, anybody. If they were watching a movie, it will replay that movie according to how that person saw it, right? It'll replay not only the movie, but the audio that goes with the movie and any conversations that were, in there. This is what AI has a capability of doing, this, assembling data in a useful form at light speed. It's only limited by how much data it can process and store. That's the danger of AI. This is one of the issues that Elon Musk is finding. It's almost impossible to communicate that, because people they're looking at AI like it's a standard computer model. Then you have these paid people out in the media, and they always say the same thing, right? They always say, well, it's light years in the future. We're not even
But it's
close.
not.
These are keywords. If you
Yeah.
listen to these keywords, why would everybody use the exact same
Yeah.
phraseology,
They're off the
right?
same
And
sheet of
so,
music.
because, well, like AI itself, most people have no idea that AI began in the 40s.
No, I did not know that. No, what?
It began in the
No.
40s. And in fact, 1938 to 1946, right? That was when science fiction, all that started taking off, but it was also when papers were published. First serious scientists were publishing AI protocols and things of that nature. You take this up to the 50s. This is when all the papers were published about machine thinking, right? That was with, what's the guy's name? Alan Turing. That was with him. Um, then you had, that was 1949, 1950, all the way to 1955. That's when logic theorists started publishing a lot of papers. They actually put that into practice. 1956 to 1963, DARPA. That was DARPA, AI, and MIT, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They were all doing this, right? They funded AI. That was back in, and we're talking about back in 1965, when Moore's Law was actually fine tuned and utilized. Following that was 1968, machines with intelligence. The military started working on these things. Machines with intelligence. They
Yeah.
actually had a working model of a mechanical computer, right? That would actually had beautiful prediction algorithms, and it was mechanical. And they translated all of that. Of course, when solid state was really solid state and ICs came out, they put all of this inside of a chip. So you have 1970. That was when general intelligence was achieved. That's when it was achieved.
Because
Um,
I'm hearing right now. It's called. I think it was Bill Gates came out and said he wants to do AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. That's
yeah,
Bill Gates.
and his own partner came out last month and said they already did that. Of course, he went on CNN, or who
Yeah.
was it? CNN and Fox, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was paid good money for that. Good money. Some of these founders that have no duties and responsibilities right now, they're being spokesmen, paid spokesmen. When you see a person you haven't seen in 100 years pop up on the news, they're being paid for that, right? And they're what they're doing is calming the public down. All of a sudden, when the public is calmed down, and when people say, well, they can't do this and they can't do that, Elon Musk has furthered his company. Do they not understand to get FDA approval? You have to have a working model. You can't operate by theory. It can't be in practice. It has to work, right? It has to have
Yeah,
gone
you
through
got to have.
trials.
It's got to be a
It
prototype,
it's
at
gone
least.
through trials, and we're not talking about months of trials. We're talking about years of trials. So just look at that one.
But
But we're not talking about the
you just blew my mind when you just said that in 6 seconds they could read my brain.
yes,
And
yes.
I mean, from everything I heard, it's my subconsciousness basically. It could even pull back. This is Total Recall. I mean, remember the movie Terminator? I think, or maybe there was a movie called Total Recall. Minority Report. They were figuring out what you're going to do before you do it. You're saying that we're already at a level now where we can not only just read the human brain, but decipher it and play it back and download it and let an AI reconfigure it. I mean, this is earth-shattering information.
Well, what's out there is done. Let me give you one of the toys that they've been playing with for the last 3 years, right? They would
Okay.
scan a person's brain. Then they would have a movie made on the fly, right? On the fly of a person's thoughts and what they've seen. And it would turn that into a story. And it would always blow the mind of the one it would interpret.
Okay, so they would scan a brain, create a movie of everything they saw in that brain.
On the fly. That
On the
means right
fly.
there on the spot.
Yeah, right
That's right.
in real time.
That's right.
And did they ever play
With
that movie?
words, with words, with music, with actors and actresses and everything on the fly.
AI could do this.
Yes, yes. And the person sitting there watching it, their mind is blown because it extracted everything from it extracted essentially everything from a picture of their brain. From a picture of their brain. You know what this means? When I start, here's what has me, here's where my mind is, right? I'm a believer in Christ.
Right.
So naturally I believe in revelation. Right?
Absolutely.
And when the world makes an image to the beast,
yeah,
this beast is going to be able to tell if somebody won't worship the beast,
yeah,
they're going to be killed, right? Well, I know that right now they had a technology back in 1993 where they would actually interrogate people they would get from wartime, right? Through these interrogations, they could always tell if a person was telling the truth or not,
right?
With perfect accuracy. Now they know where your loyalties truly are. About 5 years ago, I brought this same conversation up, and they did this through trending. So they could tell, they could ask you a question, and they'd say, well, do you like this? And if you said no, right, when you extract the concept of a person, you have to look into their thoughts, into their personality, and all these things. They can do that now. So they can extract your loyalties far better than one can express the meaning. They know what you're going to be loyal to before you're ever presented the choice of being loyal to something. They can actually they have built profiles based upon these data points of collection, right? They know everyone better than people know themselves. They actually do. And when it comes to the beast, nobody's going to be able to trick the beast.
No.
Nobody. But my mind is here, though. First of all, if a beast were going to take my life because I wouldn't be loyal to it, it already knows I'm not going to be loyal to it. If it strikes me, then so be it. You know why? Who wants to live in a world, right? Who wants to live in a world that's just like Sodom and Gomorrah, and they're supposed to be Christians? That's a bit of a controversy in it, because you do have people that say, "No, I want to live. I don't want to die." They have to really understand what type world is quickly
right.
approaching.
So you're saying this world, which we see falling apart, hand over fist, and the wickedness. The Bible says because of because iniquity will abound, the love of many will wax cold. Jesus.
That's right.
So as it was in days of Sodom, as it was in days of Noah, we're going to see this. We're accelerating at that right now, Mike. 1,000 miles an hour. We're racing toward that culture.
In past, Paul, right now, honestly, right now, my eyes, we've already gone past. We're worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. We're worse than that. We're way worse. And the reason why we're worse is because we've made educational institutions that teach Sodom and Gomorrah isms.
You're right.
Right.
You're
so
right.
this new generation is coming up. They have no moral boundaries. And it's one thing to try and act like you're nice. Some of these people that are around, they're generally, they have no good in them, no good in them, right? So
Wow.
I think we're, even man's activities has rivaled that of the demon. What do you need a demon for when human activity is worse than demonic
Well,
entities,
yeah,
right?
it's the possession, yeah, because they're operating in the spirit of darkness, no doubt. All right, Mike. Let me. I've got 7 of these. I got to get you another one. Okay. We have got. Here's a report that the government tried to give 100 senators a satellite phone. They say for in case of a natural disaster like a solar flare frying the infrastructure, or a deep impact, or an insurrection, or a nuclear annihilation, and
these people afford to coordinate at such a high level? Why do you think half these people are not worried about being jailed and all this, that, and the other, right? And we're talking about on all sides of government.
Yeah.
This is a problem, and it's so bad now you can't come out. They can't come out and announce this to the public. Why?
No.
Because the public will say it's a lie. Now they have the public totally bought, and I'm telling you right now, China is going to begin giving speeches on how America and China should work together. You want mark my words, and you'll see it, and then you'll understand why they're doing it.
So you're
It's
saying
happening
China
right
will
now.
China will start giving speeches saying, "Hey, you know what? Let's work together. We got to work together. It's one
That's right.
planet." And
That's
and,
right.
and so those that are in on this are going to agree. They're going to agree with China. Okay, yeah, you're right. We do got to work together. It's better than being at war with one another. So you're saying this has all been planted. This has been part of the infiltrating of American society.
It's already done. Yep, it's already done.
And it's in process.
It's already done.
That's how
It's
you
already
take your
done.
country without firing a shot.
It's already done.
All right,
It's
let me
already
ask
done.
you about this one, Mike. We got 30 tons of ammonia nitrate missing off of a train that was going from Cheyenne, Wyoming to Southern California. It came up missing somewhere in the Mojave Desert. Now, the report is, and this happened April 12th. We didn't find out till 4
Right.
days ago. And the
Right.
only answer we're getting is it fell off the train. Okay? Fell off the
Right.
train. Okay.
Yeah, it
So,
just kind of vanished.
Mike, this is a semi and a half. This is like 2 semi loads of ammonia nitrate. This is by far more than they used in the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995 or the Beirut bombing, the Beirut thing that blew up. I mean, this is a ton. What in the world? If this is true, Mike, what's next? What's going on here?
Oh my! Well, first of all, that stuff's expensive. I believe that's $600 per ton, right? So that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
$600 a ton. Anyway, that's a lot of explosives. And to my understanding, this was weapons grade. So it was
Yes, it
refined
was, 'cause
beyond
it came from
a
an
refining
explosive,
point. Yeah,
an
there you go.
explosive company named Noble. Right.
Right. So since it's been gone this long, chances are they're not going to recover it. Number one.
No.
Right. It's already in. You're not going to recover that. Right? You're not going to go to somebody's house and say, "Oh, there it is." That's not going to happen. They've already broken it down, distributed, or assembled whatever they need to assemble or use that in. It's unfortunate. It is a public story, but it's not the only ammonium nitrate missing.
Okay.
It is not.
What else? You mean
So,
what?
well, we had
There's more?
we had a couple rogue. Yeah, in fact, Pascal, there are a lot of stories like that here lately, especially in the last year, this year specifically. There were in at the beginning of this year, there were some rogue corporations, I'll say, and these corporations were kind of busted, having an up. These were notable corporations with some very bad executives. And so what they were doing was funneling. Some of their customers were not actually customers. And somebody caught that on the books, right? Because they had knowledge of activities associated with some of the clientele. That was busted. But to my understanding, there were hundreds of tons of this stuff that were manufactured and given over to these places they have no accountability for. So something is brewing, right? Something is brewing, and it's massive. It's not small. Something massive is brewing. Massive. And back in history, when we did have an explosion overseas, I believe that was how many tons was that? That was almost 650 tons that injured. Or no, I'm sorry, it was 4,000 tons.
Yeah, it was
that
about
injured,
4,000. Yeah, it was
6,000 people were injured, I believe.
Yeah,
something like that. 6,000 people. Hundreds were killed, and probably thousands were killed. It displaced quite a bit. And so when you have that much missing, right, instead of one explosive, they're likely manufacturing ammunition. That's what they're doing, right?
What kind of
Because
ammunition?
ammunition is being tracked, right?
Like
So what
small
you can do-
bombs, small bombs.
Well,
or-
no. If you take a 5.56 millimeter, 7.62, whatever caliber
Yeah,
you want,
yeah.
you can actually utilize that, and you can You can send it through a simple type of compression and actually have bullets with it. So you have militias inside the USA, right, who are not necessarily loyal to the government.
Right. That's
They
true.
say they're loyal to the country. Some of these militias are pretty big in size. Some of these militias they're funded very well, very well. But the problem is you have federal checks and balances on ammunition, right? You can get the guns, but the ammunition is becoming a problem.
Right.
So all of a sudden, when this came out, this ammonium nitrate started missing. You had bad clientele and everything else, and so hundreds of tons of this stuff has just gone off the books.
So they can make their own ammunition that way.
There you
By
go. On the East Coast, there was it 3 or 4 tractor trailers full of ammunition was seized, right? On was it I forgot the highway, but it was seized. 3 tractor trailers, Pastor Paul. I mean, they were packed to the rim. And then it happened again 2 months later, right, in a convoy. So ammunition is moving around on the civilian side with these militias. There's something brewing, and it's brewing right now. It's not going to brew in the future. It's happening right now.
so it's quite a major concern, no doubt, for the security of this nation. Um,
Yes.
okay, so let's talk also while we're discussing these things. Is China is admitted that they have hacked the U.S. infrastructure. They're admitting they've hacked the U.S. infrastructure for telecommunications. They have compromised our our transportation hubs and some of our military installations, including the one in Guam. Um, is this for them just to admit this? Okay, what's the reason behind that? If this is true, then what's next?
Because that's going to be part of their future negotiations. When they say we should work together, by the way, that's going to be a threat. That's a message that either you work with us or you're going to pay the price, right? An immediate
Right.
price. And they're not bluffing. They're just not bluffing.
So they'll
So
use
that
this for
when they have
leverage.
those, when they have those public communications, that's an ultimatum, Pastor Paul, is what that is. Every agency out there, when they hear China speak or Russia speak or something like that, they perceive it differently than the populace does. Whenever they come out and say we should talk about something, that's a keyword. And these keywords emphasize things, right? Especially given the time that you're in. In China's case, you're going to hear that from a lot of people from China. That message is going to continue. It's going to be resounding because they're giving the U.S. an ultimatum and a timeline, and they're not bluffing. They are not bluffing. And so, as a response to that, we've got to actually set some emergency protocols. They have to go live, right? In fact, they're going live, and so we're in a transition phase here. And it's not coming in the future. It's not mythical. It's not a theory. It's underway right now.
And these protocols, they have to do with surviving a confrontation with China.
Continuity of government is
Yeah,
one,
that's
right?
one. Yeah,
Continuity of certain critical infrastructure pieces like corporations and personnel and things like that. So don't be surprised if you begin to notice a consolidation effect. Also, places that are not important, they're going to toss them to the wind. In other words, they're not going to concentrate efforts in these places anymore. So they're going to be fortifying. Governors will do the same thing likewise. You're going to see them start to fortify their states in certain areas. You're going to see a concentration of effort given to these places because whenever there's an extenuating threat like this that is backed with lots of intelligence and lots of facts and data points, you have to set things in motion, right? We're at a very a tipping point right now, and things have gone into motion. They have to make it to where civilians don't really comprehend it,
yeah.
right?
That's what
So
Jade Helm
expect that.
wasn't it? What Jade Helm was about, kind of.
Sure, it was. Sure, it was. In fact, they've had more. Well, people
They didn't know
was,
what it was.
and because they gave them no title, nobody went any further. Then they presented Jade Helm publicly,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Why did they do that? Because of the suspicion. behind some of the other military movements that were taking place. Data becomes very valuable, especially right now. It's going to become very valuable. And the outcome is this, that the populace often will get in the way of operations and decrease chances of success to actually secure this nation if the populace is notified in certain areas and not notified in others. So they had to be very careful in what the average person knows, right? And what the general story is, which is why the media, they're always going to have media. Media is always going to start singing the same song from time to time, like they're doing now.
Yeah.
And they will emphasize small stories, giving people drama soup to capture their attention, to form their opinion in a way, right? Because
Yeah.
you don't want the populace, sympathizing with your enemy, do you?
No.
You don't want that.
No.
And so what they do is they can actually turn the populace at any given time. Right now, the populace is doing something for China. Actually, what they're doing now, they're doing for China. They just don't know it. But they're also being steered in other areas where they will give the USA support in certain operations that have to take effect. And this is just the world we live in. This is going to be an everyday occurrence now, and things, they are in motion.
You're
Things are in
saying
motion.
things are not what they appear,
No, sir, they're not.
and the propaganda and the taking the sheep.
That machine is at an all-time high.
Yeah, it's running wide open right
That's
now.
why things seem, the outcome of so many events seem very unreal, don't they?
Yeah, they really do.
They seem very unreal.
Let me ask you a
And
question about the water event. I think you mentioned it that maybe in July there could be a major water event, and so that's kind of came to my mind when this individual said up in Montana they saw this long white train full of these white government cars. And I started wondering, are we preparing for something that's coming that could affect the U.S. or no? No correlation here.
well, yeah, it's gonna. This is it's a major focus for us. It really is.
This water event.
Well, a host of things, unfortunately, it really is.
Are we dealing with?
In scripture,
Yeah.
right? In scripture, no one comes to the aid of Israel for 3.5 years. No one.
Let's talk
If
about
we
Israel.
were
Wait.
if we were in power, Pastor Paul,
Yeah.
we would have defended Israel. So
Yeah.
what happens to the USA during those moments that we have no power?
We become
intervene?
powerless.
See?
Somehow, where our hands get tied behind our back,
There
or
you
we
are.
got bigger problems to fry. We ain't got time to worry about Israel. We're
There
in a
you are.
state of survival. So here's a
Yes.
question with Israel. The matter of fact, the CIA said, "Look, we don't know about any plans." The Pentagon says we don't know any plans about Israel doing a preemptive bombing on Iran, or same thing, a preemptive strike on Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. But the fact that they even bring it up makes me suspicious that there is. Is it possible? I talked to some Israelis today. I talked to one that's he's really in the tourism industry in a big way. He's tied in a big way, and he knows some of the politicians and everything. And I said, is there anything to this, that there may be a strike? And he said, we're really on edge. And he's also an Israeli soldier, so he's not going to tell me. But he said, we're all on edge right now. Is there anything, Mike, is the United States saying we're not involved, or we're not going to tell Israel what to do, or is Biden just hands off, or what's going on here?
Well, first of all, Pastor Paul, it's a very good catch, because normally they have said in past times, they have said no. Somebody would ask, is Israel going to do so and so? No, I don't think so. That's what they would say.
Yeah.
That was their general answer. I don't think so. That's a good catch, because you caught them not wanting to give an answer, right?
Yep.
Which means things run afoot with them too. Israel has no choice. They have no choice but to do some of the operations they're going to do. Are they going to garner support from the world? No, they will not. The world's going to hate them for what they have to do. But a small example of that is, suppose with all of the death from on the Palestinian side, right? Think of it this way: Palestinians are dying, right? Israeli
Yes.
cities are
Yes.
attacked, but Palestinians are dying.
Yes.
So if Israel had a heart, wouldn't they end this conflict so no more Palestinians would die? Right?
Yeah.
I know I would, right?
Yeah.
But the world's not going to see it that way. They're not going to see it that way. In fact, I would end everything not through some sort of giving away land or anything else. I would end it with the military.
Yes.
I really would. I would end it with the military. There'd be no more fighting, and the people would have a voice, not proxy extensions of Iran. Right?
Right.
The world will never perceive it that way. The world loves drama, so they always have to have someone to blame. Right? That's almost like a spirit running rampant in the world right now, and it has to have someone to blame and point to, which means we're in a time where no one takes personal responsibility. Um, Israel has no choice but to do what they have to do, because if they don't move within a very tiny window, if they don't move, the truth is Iran's going to blow them off the map. Well, we know that does not happen that way, right?
No,
Not to say
not
Israel
according
won't
to
be attacked,
yeah,
but
according
they're
to
not blown off the
prophecy,
map.
right? According to
Right,
prophecy, Israel doesn't get blown off the map, but they
right.
do get attacked. I mean,
They're
yeah,
seized. They're
yes,
seized. They're in a
yeah,
siege, and
yeah,
people get hurt and bad things happen there, but they're not blown off the map.
right,
If they don't do what they have to do, no one is going to stop Iran. And Iran has the capability right now of launching against Israel. One of the biggest problems is not Israel at this moment. The biggest problem, right, is controlling what will be destroyed. Because if they launch any tactical nuke at Israel, right, and
yeah,
they don't have control of that yield, they're going to damage countries around Israel. They're going to make places uninhabitable, and they won't necessarily mean to. And so what they're doing is working out ratios and everything else, so that when they do launch what they're going to launch, it'll be okay. They're considering, even right now, aside from nuclear, I'm convinced a nuclear weapon is going to be used here very shortly. I'm convinced of that.
somewhere in
So a
the
lot of
world,
other people, a
Europe.
lot of other people are in the Middle East.
Okay,
I'm sure
Middle
one's
East.
going to be utilized in the Middle East.
Wow, I mean, just
Um,
to say that, Mike, is shocking. It's
yeah,
stunning.
well, I'm sure it is,
Okay,
because it's kind of aggravating to me, because you have YouTube is popular, right?
right.
It's very popular. Social media is popular. The problem is, you have a lot of people who it's almost like they don't want people to know the truth. I can
Yeah,
understand why they would do that sometimes, but they come up with this counter information, data, facts, and everything else is just ridiculous. But if you don't know the backstory, you have no choice but to go with what you hear. And a
right.
lot of people, there's a backstory to Iran that is just simply not discussed. They are not some backwoods, backwater individuals. That's going to be painfully obvious when they do what they do, because the world's going to say, well, how did this happen in the first place? That'll be the words coming out. How did this happen in the first place? Where did we go wrong? Why didn't we see this? And why didn't we see that? But it's going to be too late, right? It'll be too late. Israel knows this. They're going to have to take advantage of a window that they have. It's not guaranteed that the elements of government in Israel right now are going to be in power, right?
Right.
In the future, in the near future. So whatever they have to do within a window of opportunity, because their government is about to do another flip flop,
Yeah.
right? That's
You're
coming,
right.
another
You
flip
know it's
flop.
coming. Yeah.
And they cannot, they can't afford to have someone sit down at a table negotiate, because then it will be over. According to the Bible, it is going to be over. People in Israel, in high places, they understand that prophecy. They know it's coming, right?
Yep.
They know, they even said themselves that chances of us staving off this entire thing forever won't happen, because it's part of prophecy. But we could stave this one off. They understand that,
Yeah.
right? They can
Yeah.
stave off this attack. It's going to come again. And at some point, somebody's going to prosper over them. But they keep saying they can stave this attack off,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Unfortunately, they only have a small window for that. A tiny,
Yeah, because if the
small window for
government
that.
switches hands again, then there'll be a major reluctance. There'll be
That's
a
right.
whole lot more
That's right.
passive and not aggressive, and the military will weaken. And
That's right.
so you got guys like Netanyahu in position, Ben Gavir, some of these
Yeah.
guys. These guys are These guys are saying this is our one time. This might be the reason why I'm sitting in this chair. I mean, in their mind, God put me here for this moment right now to
That's
save
right.
the nation. That
That's
might be
right.
going through the mind of some of the top 4 or 5 generals as well as top political leaders. So you're anticipating some type of tactical nuke to be used in the Middle East soon.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
In fact, a breakout will come, right? I still also
Does it
believe that
spill
the
over?
Russian army,
That's what I was going to say. Does that cause Russia to go into effect? Russia, Syria. I mean,
I
or
think
does Russia do it?
Russia's going to be consumed or absorbed by an Islamic influence. So
Oh, that's taking place
that's
right now. Yeah,
yeah, they're going to be consumed by an Islamic influence, that believes in Islamic prophecies,
yeah,
so, Pastor, when that takes place, well, we know what unfolds. We
yeah,
already know what unfolds.
yeah.
That will be a power element that will exist in that place, and believe it or not, there are some rich places that are behind that ideology.
Yeah.
They want that to take place, and I'll tell
Ezekiel
you something.
38. Ezekiel 38. They want it to happen.
Yeah, and when they're getting together, right? So it's a real group that is formed in the Middle East, and they hate Israel,
Yeah.
right? Israel is hated, not disliked. They are hated. They're hated even in this nation. They're
Yeah.
hated. There are
I
people who
know.
hate
I know.
Israel. I'd never mention who hates them because that would ruin the fabric of many relationships in the USA. But I'll say this: it's everybody's uh, uh, best course of action to trust in the Lord and let the Lord have things revealed concerning these intimacies of Scripture, who is who, and this, that, and the other. Because if we do it ourselves, we'll just cause
We'll
further
mess it up.
division because we
Yeah.
can't see everything. I can't
No.
see everything. I see a small portion. I'd make a terrible reporter, but yeah, prophecy is going to happen. But things, Pastor Paul, are things have gone so much further than anybody ever suspected they
So
would.
let's go back to the United States because I think I interrupted you. You were getting ready to say, yeah, yeah, there's going to be such thing devastation going on here in this country. We won't have time to worry about what's going on in the Middle East. Is that from internal conflict? Is that from external takeover? Is that from natural disaster? What is the
That's a,
reasoning?
it'll be a confluence. It'll be like a conflagration of events happening all at one time. For example, geology-based happenings, right? We know that Mexico has an eruption problem, right? The same thing that's happening in Mexico is about to happen in the USA with ash. That ash is going to multiply in the atmosphere,
Wow,
right?
wow.
As it multiplies in the atmosphere with hotter temperatures, we're going to see atmospheric changes we've not seen before, which will actually increase the devastations of the storm effect. And because the rains are going to be highly acidic in many different places, it's going to compound the effect of rain that's already damaging our infrastructure.
Yeah, yeah,
New York has already reported that their infrastructure is damaged, right? Chicago has already reported that their infrastructure is damaged, right? The Army Corps of Engineers has verified so many different. There's so many places in the USA that they have unrecoverable conditions on the water. They have also been propping up the East Coast for many years now, right? That's a
yeah.
losing battle. I'm telling you now, because the East Coast is honeycombed, right? And they do a lot of things outside the public eye because the average person is not educated in the true state of
So when you
affairs
say
of
propped
what
up,
this landmass is like.
like I can tell you, in Indiana, we got these massive farms now. We were told that when these wind farms went in, it was going to reduce the price of electricity drastically, and everybody was going to benefit by this. Truth is, it's gone up. We're finding out that all the electricity that these windmills are making is going to New Jersey. Is that part of what you're talking? I mean, we know billions of dollars of tax revenue that goes into Washington ends up being funneled into California to float an incompetent government there. Okay, so is that part of what's going on? That we're, we're,
Well, I don't
we're
think that will have the financial aspect won't have as big of an effect as everything else. Now, for
Okay.
example, the water event, you mentioned the water
The
event.
water event, yes.
We're running out of fresh water, right? The USA is running out of fresh water. That means at some point we're going to have water imported to us.
Yeah, because we never did do the
Desalination.
Yeah, we never did the desalination, and we have the technology. We're too.
Well, on the West Coast, we do that, right?
Right. We
But
got
here's the
one.
problem, though. Here's the problem. If you just had seawater, you're good to go. That's not what they're facing. We have too many eruptions underneath the ocean, right? So
Okay.
the chemical composition of seawater is changing.
Ah,
And it's actually hitting these plants. They can't produce like they used to
I
produce
see.
because now they're going. We're take them a month to go through a certain type filter. It takes days now. It eats it up in a couple of days. So it's just too
Because
much
the
money involved,
composition has
right?
changed. The
That's
ocean
right.
water has
That's
changed,
right.
and
That's
that's
right.
because of
It's becoming
That's because
sulfuric.
of the magma that's rising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have too many eruptions.
Yeah.
They can only cover up the lie that everything is normal for so long.
Yeah.
Right. Pretty soon we're going to have permanent hazy skies, permanent fog, or permanent conditions, which are very harsh on a person's health.
Is
Where
this
we have
ash
pressure,
coming from space, deep space?
no, it's coming from volcanoes that
Volcanoes, I know,
they
but
just simply fail to report.
they just don't
Right?
tell. Okay.
True, we have a density increase from space, and we're going to have more. You will not mistake it when it comes to space, because here's one thing I do know for a fact: when we see particulates coming from the upper atmosphere down to Earth, right? If they touch you, they're going to look like black ash, and if they touch your arm, you and everybody else around you will know it, right? Because they're going to be hot.
Hot.
They're going to be hot,
Black
hot,
ash
hot.
coming from the heavens.
Yeah, they're going to be hot, and if they hit water, they will dilute like a reddish orange color.
Iron.
They'll dilute in reddish, but they're going to be hot, right? It's kind of like a burning coals are going to be falling from the sky.
It sounds like
we
Revelation.
also have a meteor storm we have to get through.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about that, because this thing is. I've been studying the near Earth objects. The amount of them is increasing exponentially. I mean, we just had 8 the other day going by, and these are near Earth objects, and that's the ones they report. And that's not counting all the smaller stuff, and that's not counting all the stuff that's hitting the Earth probably. I mean,
Yep.
how close are we? What is the situation with this meteor storm? What does it mean?
You remember the meteor that went over Australia, right?
Yes.
And that was on the what was supposed to hit the 21st. That was on the 20th.
Yeah, it hit.
About, I believe in Australian time, it's about 9, something like that. Anyway, let's put it this way, right? They knew about that a month ago.
They knew it was coming a month ago.
How come nobody else knew? I was trying to make a point. I did make a point with a couple of people, because I say things that certain people understand, but we have a lot more of those coming, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, don't believe they don't have the optics to see all this stuff. They talk the way they do so they can get more funding. They want more money, right?
Yeah.
They're bound to a public system because they work with the public. If they were in some of the dark operations, they wouldn't talk the way they talk, because they wouldn't need public money. When you work in the view of people, right, then your money comes from the public, and so you always have to side with the public, because everything you do will impact the attitudes or the belief, right, of the people, and they have to keep that somewhat positive. The funding mirrors a person's how they feel about their government. That's why they do that. That's the big mystery right there. Anyway, they can't say these things publicly because they understand that would upset the people, right? And if the people get upset and they start feeling insecure, they're going to point at the government, right?
Yeah.
When they point at the government, they're going to demand certain things. This will upset the balance of whatever, all these different operations.
So that's why they don't tell us what all they do know.
That's right.
But you're saying we got a meteor storm coming. This thing is going to be serious.
Yes, we do.
I mean, the Bible tells us we're going to have a meteor storm coming. I mean, talks about
what we
fire
saw
and brimstone,
What we saw over Australia.
Yeah.
We're gonna see that at an increased rate over and over again. It won't stop. It's going to continue. It won't stop. And then we're going to have an actual meteor storm. So think of it this way. Imagine a lot of those events happening at sporadic times for a couple of months. And then all of a sudden, it works up into like showers that won't stop. We're not talking about meteors that will explode in the atmosphere only. But imagine some that catch on fire, hit the ground, and
Yeah,
when you see them hit the ground, the entire horizon line is lit full of fires. There are going
that's
to be
crazy.
fires. There are going to be fires in so many different places, right? That the heat that people are going to have to deal with is going to be outrageous. Infrastructure is going to be damaged beyond belief, and there's nothing they can do about it. They already know it. They
Is it
already know
some
there's
point
nothing they
that
can
they
do about
then
it.
come clean to the public? At some point, public says,
No,
public
no,
just keeps demanding what's
no.
going
The public,
on.
the public will event. Here's one. If there's any good thing that will come of some of these external interactions with other nations hacking us, these other nations are going to release real facts to people.
Okay, okay,
When they release these real facts, though, people are not going to believe it. Now, hear me what I'm saying. They won't believe them at first. They're going to say, well, that's just trying to scare us or propaganda.
right, right.
And then those same events that they have released are going to begin to happen,
Yep,
right?
yep.
That's going to scare people to pieces because then they will have a list of things that they're about to go through. And when they have a list of things they're about to go through, they're going to fall over in their chairs and have heart attacks because they're going to realize they may not survive. Everybody's going to contemplate death during that time. Nobody's going to care about government. Nobody's going to care about their neighbor. It's going to be a dog eat dog world. We're going to quickly decline into that type of behavior. And this is coming fairly quickly So we're not talking a bunch of years off, right? That's false security. That
Yeah.
really is false security. Um, they can see things really close,
Is this Agenda
fairly close.
2030 part of the reason for it that they've set a deadline out there to get a lot of their agenda done? Is it because they know the incoming meteorites, asteroids, the ash environment that we're going to be in? Is this 2030? Is it magical that they set that number? In your
No,
opinion,
and it will likely happen. That number will likely every time they put out a number like that,
they'll change
right?
it.
If you
Yeah.
if you go back historically, it's always happened a lot sooner.
Ah.
Right?
Okay.
Especially when you're dealing with property, especially when you're dealing with resources. It's always happened like 10 years earlier or something like 5, 7 years earlier. The rule, I believe, is 5 years or something like that, 5 years earlier. So they have their calculations. That's a message. Again, sometimes when they talk to people out there in the public, they're also talking to operatives and individuals they can't speak to. They can't, telephone or anything else. In order to get a message out to these people, they have to those people listen to certain types of media. Certain things will capture their attention, right?
Yeah.
And they also use that as an avenue to keep people informed. I would not trust any year that was given like that, because in most cases, well, people are going to start seeing the degradation this year, not next year, this year, and that's going to change their mind about timing. So there's some unavoidable things that people will see. But I'll say it again, it's not going to happen in a way that everybody on earth is going to believe it all at once, right? This
Yeah. It
conversation
never
that we're
does.
having, if people can remember this conversation and they start seeing the buildup in this activity and they start tracking these things, it'll help them out a bit. Because if they have no foreknowledge of what will take place, they're going to think it's normal, right? Just like in Turkey, that big explosion that was not normal, nobody's talking about it. And that's the way we operate. Something big will happen all of a sudden. Time goes by, nobody remembers.
Right.
Something else takes place. It's like it's brand new, right? But then the important things that they've been burned down on, they're not paying attention to, like that volcanic eruption in Mexico.
Yeah.
Everybody should pay attention to that, but they're not. If they think that volcano is erupting all on its own, it's done it before, they're wrong.
Right. Right.
This is a linked event that will begin to unfold, and that's where it begins right there. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
we okay. You had the volcano there. You had the volcano in Colombia. You have the earthquake just hit Panama, right off the coast of Panama and Colombia today. We have Tonga that never seems to go away. It's crazy. There's always the concern about the earthquakes, and we've had a couple decent ones in California this week. We already know Italy is shaking. We already know there's stuff going on. We had an earthquake in New York about a week ago, pretty good size. I mean, these are areas that you have said already that there's underground fault lines that's not been talked about much. I mean, the Earth's pulling apart, it feels like. The Ring of Fire's on fire, but this is just the beginning of sorrows, I guess.
we have more fault lines than what they have ever published, right? We have that number of 19,000 volcanoes in the
Yeah,
ocean. That's not some ballooned number.
that's
That's
an
an
unbelievable number.
that is not a balloon
I mean,
number.
that's so
And
far off what the people have been
yes,
told.
it
I
is.
mean, it's
Yes, it is.
crazy.
Yes, it is. Because the scale of the Earth is different than what anybody thinks in their mind. We think of continents. We don't really think of the water. And if somebody were to see, if they were to observe the Earth, right, from space, from real space, then they would start to get an image that, wow, this Earth is humongous. This is a water world with
Yeah, it
small
really
pieces of
is.
land on it. The representation of the continents. Do you know they're not the right size on any map? And they do that on purpose, right? So things like that give a false representation of the scale of the Earth, and people think things are under control and that we know everything. No, we don't. We don't know anything. We only know 5% of what's happening in the ocean, Fastball. We don't know the other
We don't know the
95%
ocean. No, we don't know the
because we
ocean.
cannot get to the bottom of the ocean,
Right.
right? The ocean is deep. It is very deep. And just to let people know, as far as we have satellites in space, that wouldn't even reach the bottom of the ocean. Just
That's
just so people
unbelievable.
understand that.
Yeah,
Right, there you go. It wouldn't reach that. So we
it's
have issues
crazy.
and problems all over the place. Oh, but they did pick up two heat plumes, right? The size of probably New York City in South America, in
What?
the waters, in the ocean, and they're hexagonal shaped. They're not round. They're not like a cylinder. They're hexagonal. They haven't moved. They're not
Heat
moving. They're
plumes.
stationary. Heat plumes. There's a heat signature,
Is it in
right?
the ocean?
It's near the in the depths of the ocean. They
Yeah.
haven't moved. They're sending off heat. They're geometric in shape. They're giant, about the size of a city. They've been there. They've been estimated. They've been there for since forever, right? But they've never seen them put off heat like this. They are shaped like a hexagon
That's
and
wild.
an octagon. Yeah, they're down there. So yeah, we're gonna have that. I think. Here's what I think. It should be no secret that what Genesis talks about was always here on this planet. They're going to interfere with their stories of grandeur, right? And while people ought to be praying, they're going to be thinking about ET and going back home and their flying shields and those type stories, right? Um, because their loyalty is about to be tested. I believe that these special teams in the government who know all about these text and prophecy and everything else, I believe they know about it because they're starting to show up everywhere now. You know
Yeah.
that all
Yeah.
over the world, these government teams are showing up who understand things about prophecy, and ironically enough, they are watching everything that in geology that happens and in space. So these guys are tracking what they can track. I think also a greater time of delusion is coming.
Are they watching? Are they watching us? Our prophecy, this broadcast, and let's say, and a lot of different prophecy teaching and gatherings. I mean, are they?
Sure they are. Sure they
What
are.
are they?
Because they want to know, right? Here's one of the biggest things. They already know prophecy, right? They know
Right.
prophecy
Right.
from many different dialects and cultures and things. What they don't know is the reaction of the people,
Right.
right? Better believe too, I'd also say they probably have people that, are in your chat room to probe people. That's going to be a common practice.
Yeah. I
They'll
figured
probe
that.
people just to see where the people are. If you get too close to something, weird stuff starts happening, things like that. So that's no longer a conspiracy as standard operating procedure for these guys. But they do. They like to see the reaction from the people. If the people react in a specific way to where they believe something, and everybody listen, when people believe it and it increases their faith, isn't it amazing how something the same week following at
Well,
Thursday night or something like that,
it'll
it comes up
happen.
on the news and it will combat. It'll either match or combat what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. That is the truth. That I've seen so many times now that I expect it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Um,
It does. It
we
happens.
are in a time now, a very prophetic time, and everybody's prophesying. I mean, the church is, we the prophecy people are watching, but the world is. Satan's predictive programming, whether it be Hollywood, whether it be
Yep.
the media propaganda, talking heads. Everybody is telling everybody, whether good or bad, are sharing the advanced things that are going to be taking place on earth. Satan is revealing his plan. God is already revealing his, and it continues to reveal his. It seems like we're headed in that direction.
I believe that. Amen. I believe that too, Paul.
Mike,
Yeah.
this has been pretty powerful. The webinar's coming up. We already know. We already interviewed you, and it was off the chain. I can't wait to play that one for folks. It'll really help them, I hope, to understand just where we're at. We're in the last days, no doubt.
We are.
What are we going to talk about next week, Mike? What do you think? What to look
Well,
for?
hopefully not. You know what? We kept talking about accidents some weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we had some sort of an airplane related accident,
No.
something like that, hadn't it?
Yeah,
These things are revolving, right? They are revolving. It's bad to admit that there are a lot of things, past Paul, that things are just like a movie, so that people believe them just like a movie. Unfortunate. Satan is darker than we know. He really is. He does some pretty dark things.
Planned terrible events.
Yep. He does some pretty dark things. So I tell everybody to stay founded in your faith with Christ. And don't let your brothers and sisters fail. Encourage each other. Don't fight each other. Encourage each other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because Satan he's on death row, right? He knows he's on death row.
We're on the winning side. He's the one on death row. Amen.
That's right. That's right. Pastor Paul's always in the honor.
Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate it tonight. Very good. Thank you.
God bless.